to heat up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Plus Platoon. We're a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to visit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I'm going to bring in Pete. Pete, how's your evening going?
Hey, Derek, it's going great. I'm excited to be on the show and talk about Lightyear.
Awesome. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And this week we've got Sam. Sam, how's it going?
It's going great, to infinity and beyond.
But enough about how long this movie seemed.
It's great to see you guys. I want to point out, I've got with me, this is an older popcorn bucket, and I know we're not reviewing Toy Story, but I felt like I needed to bring, this is another older popcorn bucket. This is from Japan, even though it's the claw and then of course the alien. So, you know,
Nice.
It's not Toy Story, but I feel like it's Buzz-esque, you know?
Yeah.
I could have used those little green aliens in this movie.
Yeah.
They would have been some additional comic relief. I agree. I think they would have been an excellent addition to the movie, but you know,
Yeah.
Oh well.
So, guys, please, if you have not already, like, subscribe, share, join us. Make sure you're never missing any of our shows that we've got coming up, because we've got some big ones coming up, especially next week. We got She-Hulk premiere coming up.
Yeah, more Marvel. Woohoo!
Poor Marvel.
That's what everybody needs except Derek.
So, Sam, we do have a little bit of Disney Plus news. What we got going on this week?
Yeah, welcome to the Disney Plus news. All right, there's not too much, but some of this news is not such good news, at least in my opinion. So Disney's released details about its ad-supported tier that is going to be coming this December. Now, what I mean by that is for the Disney Plus subscription. So the ad-supported tier will remain at $7.99 a month, meaning you're going to get ads either during your shows or in between your shows. But the ad-free version is going to rise to $10.99 a month. And then the bundle, including ESPN Plus and Hulu, will be going up $1 from $13.99 to $14.99. So we're going to pay the same if you're willing to have ads, but you're going to pay $3 more if you want to continue with an ad-free version. So,
And to me, it's going to be interesting because as of now, I get this free through Verizon.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see which version Verizon still gives us for free.
Yeah, and I have the
That's a good
same thing.
question.
I actually signed up. I'm a day one subscriber.
Mhm.
I have a what do you call day one subscriber pin from D23, and I paid. It was like $4 a month for a 3-year subscription, which is going to run out come November of this year, because it will be for 3 years. But I also have the Verizon back bundle, and I actually signed on to that now, so I'm not even using my subscription. But yeah, I mean, that bundle has Hulu, I think.
It's got the Hulu, ESPN Plus, and Disney.
It's Hulu, but it's with Hulu with ads, I believe, in the bundle.
And so is the ESPN Plus is with ads.
I haven't actually used it yet. So,
and I guess that means our subscription is going to be running out, because we signed up real early too through the D23 promotion, just like you did, Pete. We didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think we signed up first day, but we signed up with that same promotion, so it was the $4 a month. But yeah, it must be.
It'll run out November 12th or whatever the date is. But yeah, I don't know if the Verizon one is going to be ad free or not. Is the question, or if they continue it even. I mean, I guess they could suspend it. But
we don't use Verizon, so we don't have that bundle. But we do have. I don't know. We must have some kind of bundle, because we do also get Hulu. But I think we had Hulu before.
Yeah.
Before we had Disney Plus. So
anyways, if we hear anything more, we'll share it here.
Yeah, definitely. We'll know. Like, can we pay the extra $1 or $2 to get the ad-free Disney through Verizon?
Yeah. I know. I don't want to watch ads. So,
No.
okay. In other news, this one is, I think, a good news. Don Cheadle provided an update that Armor Wars is still in production. It wasn't announced during Marvel Comic-Con, so there were fears that it was going to be, that the series was canceled. But thoughts are that will fit into Phase 6 of the MCU. So it's still a go.
And the idea behind this is that basically all of Tony Stark's worst fears for his Iron Man technology are coming true. So
Right.
it's not a happy, which I'm kind of gathering from.
But didn't we kind of have that already in one of the Iron Man movies? I forget which one it was.
No, they were still all functioning for him.
Well, his were, but there was the copy, the guy who copied and made him into robots.
Ultron kind of, that's true. Ultron was kind of that. But we also have, in between there, we have Ironheart, which is kind of the next generation Iron Man, right? That's the Riri Jones, who also is going to be in Black Panther too. So there's a lot coming before we get to that. So
yeah. But that's it for the Disney Plus news. It's really, it's a quick update, not too much going on, not too much release. We may see some more releases coming soon because D23 is coming up in just a few weeks. And so there may be, and Disney Plus Day, right? So
and Disney Plus Day is the Disney Plus D23
day. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to have, I'm sure there's going to be a ton of stuff coming soon. So it's probably going to be quiet for the next couple of weeks. And then big news dropping that first or second week of September, I guess.
Yeah. I'm assuming we're going to hear a lot of new shows coming in the next year, even though
they're going to be like announcing stuff that's like 2025. Because right now they're announcing everything that's 2023 and 2024.
Well, I'm not talking about Marvel. I'm talking about other things in general. I think we'll hear a lot of different things coming.
Star Wars.
More Star Wars.
More Star Wars, more Disney stuff.
Wait,
more series.
Disney stuff on Disney.
Yeah, there's stuff that's not Marvel on Disney Plus. What are you talking about?
We saw that today.
Oh yeah. I thought we watched.
It may not have seemed like it wasn't Marvel.
I thought we watched a Marvel movie, didn't we?
Well, we watched Lightyear.
Yeah.
Right.
Which did come out earlier this summer. It was released in theaters. Now, before we get into the plot, I do want to address at the opening shot. It's the idea behind this movie is in 1995. This is the movie that Andy saw that became his favorite movie, which is why he was so excited to get the Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger action figure.
Mm-hmm.
Pete, I'm going to go to you. Did this movie feel like 1995?
It did not. In fact, I really tried to go into this movie with an open mind, and I saw it in theaters. So I saw it maybe a month ago. So it gave me a lot of time to think about it. And that was one of the things that kind of drove me crazy about the movie was it felt like I was just joking earlier, but it kind of almost felt like a Marvel movie. Like there was a lot of heaviness to it. The hero was very angsty and he was, all these things. And it's like, that's not 1995. 1995 is, and I went back and I was looking at it, it's like, well, what were the movies then? Well, it was like Stargate, and it was a year later it was Independence Day. And these movies are all very much good guy versus bad guy. That's what movies were like in the 80s and 90s. There was not.
Yeah, but we still had sort of the nerdy guy prevailing in Stargate and being the real hero. So I have to tell you, I'm going to disagree with you, Pete, but I'm going to let you continue.
So I'm just saying, like, all the stuff that Buzz Lightyear went through in this movie to me was not what I was expecting from a Buzz Lightyear movie. And I also expected it to be maybe a little more cheesy, because if this movie had been made in 1995, we would look back on it and there would be some more cheesiness to it. And I don't feel like they caught that feeling to me. So I'll let you argue the pro on it.
Yeah. I think there were a lot of things or a lot of things that made me feel like this was a 1990s film. Now, there were plot lines that would not have happened in the 90s. For example, Alicia's relationship and marriage, right? It probably wouldn't have happened in 1995.
No.
But there were a lot of nods to the 90s, right? So there was Buzz blows into the cartridge of the Ivan on that first time he goes up. He's trying to hit hyperdrive, right? And so he's blowing into the what would be like a Nintendo cartridge, right? So that was 1990s, not really 1980s. We're talking like, yeah, Nintendo, but Super Nintendo, N64, right? That definitely hit me in the 90s. The robot cat socks. The first robot pet toy came out in the 1990s. It was called Techno. It was a robot dog, and it was the big toy for Christmas. I don't know what year in 1990. I think it might have been 1995, but I'm not sure. But that was kind of a big deal. And they, obviously Socks was now a robot cat. So that was another nod to the 90s. To me, the music felt kind of 90s. If you looked at like the computer screens, they all looked like the old Windows from the 90s with the sort of boxy layout and framing. So there were a lot of visual things and auditory things that were very 90s that gave it a 90s feel. I agree the plot did not fit within necessarily, what would have been in a normal 90s movie, but it's not. It's being released in 2022, right? So it's got to be updated for today's, time too. So I think they did a good job in balancing nods to the 90s without recreating a 90s movie in its entirety. There were some nods to Star Wars. There were some nods to 2001 Space Odyssey. There were a ton of little Easter eggs here and there throughout the movie that were clearly nods to movies that would have been closer in time but preceded this movie if it had come out in 1995.
And what I will give them is there were a lot of nods to things that Buzz said.
Yes, for sure.
In the Toy Story movies,
sure.
They didn't put him in Spanish mode, but I was expecting at some point for him to try to speak Spanish. That would have been great. But I do think that part of it was there were a lot of, and they weren't necessarily just like the To Infinity and Beyond stuff. It was kind of more subtle lines from that Buzz had said at some point or another.
Yeah.
So I
about the terrain and
yeah. So that was kind of cool, but
no sign of intelligent life.
Right. Yeah. No, there was a lot of it because my daughter and I we would go, okay, that's number 5. Yeah. We would turn to each other with every time they came up with a line. So there was quite a few of those, and and I do think they captured Buzz pretty well. And even I don't know if we're going to be talking about this later, but like not using Tim Allen, to me, that wasn't that big a deal. I know we're going to talk about it a little later, so maybe I'll hold off on getting into that. But do we want to do a quick summary of the movie?
Can I talk on this point, guys?
Sure.
Yeah. First, the Techno the dog, I did look it up real quick, came out in 2000.
No, really?
Yeah, it was the year 2000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, for me,
sworn it was the 90s.
If I was a 10, 12-year-old in 1995, this is not the movies that I was watching.
Yeah, that's true.
I was watching at all.
That's true.
For one, it probably would have been considered, for the most part, too scary for a kid to go see in the movie theaters because it would have been a PG-13 and parents would have been right on the edge because this would have been a PG-13 movie in 1995, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, you guys mentioned all the different quotes. To me, that was trying too hard. That was really trying too hard to get all of the different things he said to play off those references of the original Toy Story. That part didn't necessarily work for me. But as far as a 1995 movie, this was not a 1995 movie aimed at kids. This reminded me of 1995. You take away the language, and this was Alien or Predator. Now, it obviously wasn't that scary.
Yeah, but it was like that kind of adult.
It was way too serious
Yes,
Or
adult
Right.
themes.
for a
Right.
kids movie in 1995.
Right. And we
Agreed.
gotta remember, how old was Andy in that first Toy Story
10,
movie?
12,
Like,
somewhere in that
yeah, I was gonna
neighborhood.
say, like, I don't think he was 12. I think he was, like 10
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, he was
So
pretty
yeah,
young.
he was
Or even
definitely
like 8. Just because if he was 18, then 10 years late. Did Toy Story 3 come out 10 years later?
well, it came out more than 10 years
Oh,
later, but
is it supposed?
yeah,
I mean,
I don't remember.
but anyway, he was not old enough to. This would have been way too mature of a movie for him.
Yeah.
So, Pete, let's go in and go a little bit through the plot. There's the little bit of it that there was.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no, I think the opposite. I think there was way too much plot. So, the Toy Story, I'm just looking this up real quick. The Toy Story script says that Andy is 6 in the first Toy Story
and how the
movie.
heck is he seeing this movie?
I have a slight answer to that, but I'm going to hold it until we talk about another question, because I think it fits in nicely to that question.
All right.
All right. So I'm gonna go through this plot pretty quickly. Again, we talk about spoilers on this show, so if you really care about the plot of this movie and don't want to see it, go watch the movie first and then listen to this. But basically, Buzz Lightyear is a space ranger that's on a deep space voyage where he's asleep. The ship discovers a planet that has life on it. He's the first one that's woken up. They land on the planet, and basically he ends up wrecking the ship as they're trying to escape from this planet, because there's a bunch of nasty things on the planet. Beyond that, they end up spending the next third of the movie with him trying to develop a crystallic fusion flight simulator, and they can't get the fuel mixture right, and he ends up taking off, going into space, and he comes back, and it's like, what, 2 or 3 years later, he's basically 4 years later. Okay,
It's basically Flight of the Navigator for animated. It's
right.
The faster you go closer to the speed of light,
Right.
the more time,
Right.
your time takes compared to everyone else's.
So, but he's basically determined to fix his mistake. So he just keeps doing it over and over again. And eventually he ends up, he basically jumps a couple years at a time and ends up, all his friends are dead and everything like that. And then the last time he gets this little robot cat called Socks. Somehow the robot calculates the fuel mixture that all the other, and I shouldn't skip out on this. The base itself, all these people on the spaceship have basically made a place for themselves to live and protect themselves from the creatures and the plants that are attacking them.
Which, Pete, real quick, can we take a moment and appreciate the humor of Socks and the comic relief that Socks plays in this movie?
Yes.
Reminded me a lot of an intelligent Doug in Up. It's kind of what Socks reminded me of.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely much needed humor in a movie that was pretty serious.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time.
To your point, Pete, his best friend Alicia, who's actually his commander, every time he comes back, she's older and older, and then eventually she's got, she's married, and then has a child, and then she has a grandchild, and then she's got white hair, and and then the last time she's passed away, and she leaves this heartfelt message for him. Which, by the way, spoiler, you will cry. If you don't cry, you have no soul at that.
I have no soul then, apparently.
Oh, you guys.
It was a touching moment, but like, again, I was like, oh, no wonder Andy loved this movie. Everybody loves best friends dying, and
best friends.
But no,
anyway, it was a beautiful
it was a nice moment. It was a very nice moment in the movie. But yeah, and then so the last time he gets his robot cat to also solve the problems again that somehow all the other computers in the station can't solve, and he steals the ship at that point to do one last flight, ends up going 60 years in the future at that point, I believe, or
Yes.
it's a larger jump into the future, and comes back and has solved the problem, but now they're being attacked. He finds that the base is being attacked by a spaceship, and here's where we probably about halfway into the movie come across Zurg and the Zurg bots that are attacking the ship. But he doesn't actually go back to the base. He ends up crashing out at some outer base, and he ends up teaming up with some
Misfits.
Yeah, misfits is a good way to put it, right? There's some recruits that aren't great. We get Taika Waititi as one of the misfits, and he's awesome. And actually the misfits are pretty entertaining. One of them is Alicia's granddaughter, I believe.
Yep, Izzy is the granddaughter of Alicia.
Yeah. And so, now Buzz is all torn about, should he use these people that aren't really trained as soldiers, and should he go on his own? And then there's more adventures fighting the Zurg bots and things like that. Eventually, he ends up going up onto the ship to try to defeat it. And here's the big spoiler. We all think that Zurg is his father, or maybe is his father from Toy Story 2. Nope, turns out, what do you want to say?
And I was going to say that pulls us into this point, and is, the continuity with Toy Story 2 is an issue.
So I will say in Toy Story 2, the main reason they did that was for a Star Wars joke, right?
Of course.
That
Luke,
you're my father. No. Yeah. But in the end, the rest of that movie was, oh yeah, he's my father. Let me play ball with him and everything like that. Well, in this movie, the twist is not his father. It's another Buzz Lightyear from further in the future.
And this is where the movie jumps the shark, because when you play with time, this is where the movie jumps the shark, because when you start messing with time, nothing makes sense anymore. I mean, literally every movie that has ever, messed with time, there is something that doesn't make sense. And this one is one of them.
Endgame. So you're saying Endgame jumped the shark with the time travel?
Ooh.
They didn't.
They didn't.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm with Sam. I hate there's two good time travel movies that I'll accept. Back to the Future.
Yes. Back to the Future 1.
I'll give Back to the Future 1, and even you're right, Back to the Future 2, forget it.
No.
Yeah.
And Prisoner of Azkaban. The third Harry Potter movie. Those are the only two movies that have acceptable forms of time travel.
But the problem with Prisoner of Azkaban is they should have done the time turner more and gone back and killed Tom Riddle. Okay, the end.
Yeah, but then you get the Half-Blood Prince, which is awful. So, but anyways, and not the Half-Blood. I'm sorry, the Cursed Child. But we're not going into Harry. We're not a Harry Potter podcast. So,
apparently we could be.
We could be. Yeah.
No.
Anyways, so I will agree there's some parts of Endgame with the time travel that I don't care for. Because what Sam said, like, time travel is almost impossible to do well. And actually, truthfully, Back to the Future doesn't do it very well either, but it's so entertaining.
It's just a fun movie.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie.
Yeah. But so anyways, this in particular, I don't know. It's just like, it seemed really stupid at this point. It's like,
and Buzz has to defeat himself, basically, the older version of himself.
And the other problem was, to me, like, Zurg is this huge arch enemy, and they built video games with Zurg, and there were comic books with Zurg and all these other things. And we get this Zurg that's introduced, as I said, halfway through the movie, and is defeated by the end of the movie. And it's like, this is not the Zurg that was in the Toy Story movie.
And he's also not totally evil, right? Like, he's a misguided Buzz, so sorry, Derek. Derek's dying to talk.
Except for the fact that if you watch the end credit scene, Zurg wakes up and is back and is coming out for vengeance.
Oh, I did not see that end
yes,
credit
the
scene.
end credit scene. There's 3 end credit scenes.
Oh my
So
god, I
tell
missed
me,
them.
tell me this isn't really a Marvel movie.
Tell me you're a Marvel movie
Zurg is
without telling
floating
me
out
you're
there
a
in
Marvel
space,
movie.
and Zurg
There are 3
wakes
end
up.
credits.
Zurg wakes up in the very last end credit scene. So
Yeah, that
that's
makes
how they
sense.
keep Zurg around.
Gotcha. But anyway, Zurg does not seem as evil as he should be if you think about him as like the video game arch nemesis, right? I think that's Pete's point. Because he is Buzz, right? And so yes, he's like this misguided version of Buzz, right? So he is evil, but it's, anyway, he's not 100% evil, perhaps. Yeah. That to me, that's where the plot really lost me. I understand that, Derek, you got lost earlier.
I didn't get lost. I just
Not
didn't
lost,
like
not
it.
lost as confused.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie lost your stamp of
My
approval,
buy-in.
or
Right.
or your buy-in, exactly.
So
But
so
for
in
me,
the
that's
end,
where really.
in the end, they defeat Zurg. They go back to the compound. They decide not to try to go home and just stay on this planet. And Buzz forms the Star Command troops or whatever. He's the leader of the Star Command troops, which makes sense since he's like 180 years old. And
and he chooses the Misfits as his recruit, as his
Right,
team,
as his
instead
first-
of choosing whoever he wants from the
troops,
normal military or whatever.
So
yeah,
and it ends, and it ends.
Yeah.
I thought I stayed for the end credits, but
I definitely didn't see that end
There were
credit.
3.
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe I didn't stay for the third one. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But
The third one was after the castle shot.
Oh, maybe that's why I missed it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we have kind of glanced on this topic. Does Chris Evans work as Buzz Lightyear instead of Tim Allen?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes. The answer to that question is a resounding yes. He definitely, he has a different voice, but he has a very commanding, firm voice, kind of similar to the style of Tim Allen. The speech pattern I think he uses in the movie is also kind of similar to Tim Allen. But there are certainly differences. But I was reading something just earlier today that the director from this film was interviewed to talk about why and talked about why there was different voice for Buzz than Tim Allen. And the answer was, so Lightyear was a live action film in 1995. So this cartoon was actually, a live action film. And then there was a cartoon TV series of Lightyear that was on TV following this movie.
Please don't let that come out.
I'm telling you, this is what the director gave as the explanation. And so that person who played Buzz would have been different from the film version to the TV series, because that's what happened all the time in the 90s. One actor would do the movie, then a different actor would get recast for the TV series. So I take that to mean Chris Evans would have been the live action character in the movie, and then Tim Allen did the voice of the cartoon TV series. And so the toy was actually from the cartoon TV series, and that's why I would have had Tim Allen's voice. What helps make a little bit of sense, and I say a little bit of sense because they shouldn't have said this was that movie, or they should have said this was the movie that the TV series was based on that Andy watched. Because I'm going to say, if I'm reading into the comments of the director, to me, this means that Andy was probably watching that cartoon TV series that was based on the movie. And the reason I say that is for exactly the reasons you said earlier, Derek. This was not a kid's movie. So a 6-year-old would not have been watching this movie in 1995. This would have been a movie that maybe teenagers would go see, and young adults would go see, and maybe middle-aged adults would go see. But this was not a kid's movie. So, but we've seen other, live action movies then have cartoon TV series versions, and those cartoon TV series versions being targeted at kids. Like I
But-
said, the problem with that is the beginning of the
I'm
very
gonna let Derek
beginning
go
of the
because I
movie.
keep interrupting, but
Yeah.
go, Derek.
Yeah, the very beginning
Um,
of this movie saying this was that movie, that I think that conflicts with what the director said.
And to me, this was Captain America doing a Buzz Lightyear impersonation. That's all I could
Oh,
hear. That is all I could hear. The
yeah.
commanding
Well-
voice. It's him doing Captain America.
It's funny.
It was Captain America. It was Chris Evans as Captain America doing a Buzz
It is.
Lightyear
I mean,
impersonation.
it is that commanding voice, right? That's how Chris Evans has one version of a commanding voice, but he does have a lot of other voices. If you've ever seen some of his other films where he's not, a serious Captain America type.
Right, but this was the same type of character.
Yeah, it was. It is the same
Okay,
type of character.
so-
Absolutely.
And to me, I'm sorry if Tim Allen said no, fine. If Tim Allen was never asked, shame on Pixar.
Yeah, 'cause they could have asked because it was an animated. If it had been a live action, I understand why it
live
couldn't
action,
have
I
been
totally
him.
get it.
Yeah,
But because trust me, there's a live action with him coming up that no one is really thrilled about. Santa Clauses. If they never even asked him, which
Yeah.
from the sounds of things they never did, to take away that commanding, that is, but you shut your eyes, and I don't care if you listen to Home Improvement. I'm sorry, in my age, that's Buzz Lightyear is on Home Improvement.
yeah.
So
And he's hilarious. And so it could have brought
this
a lighter.
wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. It could have brought more humor to, like, so I think Captain America is the straight man, like in all of the, he's not in all the Avengers movies, he is not the comedic relief. Like, other people make jokes at him, but he's never the one
Right.
cracking the jokes. Versus in Toy Story, Tim Allen and Buzz Lightyear, he's not, I don't know that he's cracking jokes, but the
And-
things he says are hilarious because they're so
Because-
silly.
Okay, if Chris Evans is going to do this, he didn't take it far enough.
Fair.
Buzz-
I love Chris Evans and he can do no wrong in my book, but that's a fair criticism.
But he could have if he's going to do Buzz Lightyear, you got to go full Buzz Lightyear. You got to go, I'm Buzz Lightyear, not I'm Buzz Lightyear. He didn't go over the top enough.
Well, but he was also playing it as a live action character versus a toy.
Exactly.
So I don't
That's
know.
the difference.
I didn't really have a problem with Chris Evans as Buzz because there were so many other things that I had bigger problems with that
That's fair.
that it really didn't. I didn't find myself thinking, oh, I'm listening to Captain America. That didn't bother me.
Okay.
So
Now,
I'm with Sam.
okay. Now, this was Pixar's June 2022 theatrical release. Pete, should this have been released in theaters, or should it have gone the way of Turning Red and gone directly to Disney Plus, or should it have traded places with Turning Red?
Well, see, this is the issue I had, is that Luca and Turning Red were both infinitely, yes, I use that on purpose, superior movies to this movie, and those movies definitely deserved theatrical releases. However, I cannot disagree that you're marketing this as a Buzz Lightyear movie, that it did deserve to be in theaters. Again, I think there was a movie to be made that would have been a lot of fun and fun and funny that could have been made on this concept. I just don't think they made it. So I will, I will say for the concept, I think it should have gone to theaters. I think, and I think the movie didn't do particularly well because it wasn't very good. It wasn't
Toy Story caliber. It
didn't even have to be Toy Story caliber, but it had to be for kids. It had to be like
Toy Story 3 caliber.
Right. Yeah. No, it had to be something that's fun for kids. And to me, I mean, Derek said it. This is like a movie, and you said it too. I think this is a movie to me that, if anything, is going to appeal to would be teenagers, but it's animated, so it wouldn't appeal to teenagers. So who's it appealing to?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Honestly, I feel like they should have done this as a live action film, actually filmed it live action. I think it might have been better, and then it could have been this serious. And I don't know that we would have been as critical about it, but because it's like built as the, sort of the prequel to Toy Story, and it's about Buzz Lightyear and it's animated, I feel like we're all missing, that humor. I have to agree with you, Pete, though. I feel like conceptually, this is the kind of movie that Disney would want to send to theaters first. But I also feel like Turning Red especially should have gone to theaters first. And I think Turning Red was a better film than this one. So I can't fault Disney for putting out in the theaters before sending it to Disney Plus, because they wanted to make money off of it in that way. And so that is, I know it didn't do well in theaters, but it still would, it still made more money going to theaters first and then to Disney Plus than it would make just going straight to Disney Plus. So, I on balance, yes, it should be released in theaters, but not because it was a great movie.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
So, as we always do, watch a feature film, Pixie Dust rating out of 5 cups of Pixie Dust. Sam, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Okay. I'm going to give it 2 cups of Pixie Dust because it's not the worst thing we watched. I don't hate it. If it was on, I might watch part of it again. I probably wouldn't, like if it was on TV and I'm flipping through channels and I can't find anything to watch, I might stop on it and watch for a bit. But it isn't something I'd go back to Disney Plus and go look for and say, oh, I want to rewatch this. So I always think about rewatchability. And that's sort of my line between like a 2 and a 3. And I just don't feel like this movie has a ton of rewatchability. Like I said, not that I wouldn't, like, it was the only thing on TV. I don't know that I would turn it off, but it's not something I would seek out to rewatch. Derek, what do you think?
Guys, I'm at a 1.5. I would turn this off if this is the only thing on, or I'd go to Disney Plus and find something infinitely better and beyond. So
Sam stole my comments right out of my mouth, because a 2 to me is, I don't feel that I necessarily wasted my time watching it, but I would never go back to it. And that's what I feel about this movie is that I would watch all 4 Toy Story movies over again before
even Toy Story 4.
Even Toy Story 4, which is not a great movie, but it's not a bad movie.
I have to agree with you, Pete. I'd probably watch Toy Story 4 again before watching.
I'd watch Cars 2 before
I'd watch Cars 2 over this. There's not many Pixar movies that I would put below this, to be quite honest. Yeah. Probably Good Dinosaur. I hated Good Dinosaur.
Oh, I don't hate Good Dinosaur. That's funny. Yeah, no, I would watch Good Dinosaur before watching this, but I'm not sure about Cars 2. I actually might watch this over Cars 2.
I will say this is definitely one
close.
of them. It's close. As much as there's some Pixar movies I don't like, this is my lowest rating for any. This is the lowest rating by far we've given any Pixar movie.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it wasn't good.
It was not good.
No. Now, and it's too bad because it really had potential.
Well, and there were some really, let me just be fair and say, there were some really touching and wonderful moments in this movie. So it's not all bad, but the plot overall and the movie's just not great.
There were moments in this movie that I enjoyed. There were several moments, and as I said, so I did not. I saw it in the theaters. I did not want to walk out at any point,
right?
Which would have gotten it a 1 if I'd wanted to walk out. But after watching it, I was like, okay, I don't need to see that again. So
that's fair. Now, we also watched this week I Am Groot. It's a series of 5. They're approximately 3-minute animated. The credits are as long as the shorts on Disney.
Yes, they are.
But we did watch I Am Groot, and we're gonna go with Pete first on this one. Of the 5, which one was your favorite?
Oh, this is so hard.
I got to go with Groot Takes a Bath was my favorite one. I don't remember if that's exactly the name.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. But I did enjoy that one. It was probably the one I laughed at the most. If I'm seeing short 3-4 minute shorts, they need to be funny. And some of these were funnier than others. And that was of those, that's the one I laughed at the most. I liked the different hair forms that he formed in that one. So that was my favorite
one. I'm sorry.
What?
Him as the penguin. Yeah.
What about you, Sam?
This is so hard because they're so good. So spoiler, I loved them all. I love the one where he ends up doing like the salsa dance. It's like he's trying to find Groot's Pursuit. Thank you. He's trying to find like there's some being or something on the ship that he keeps seeing sort of whizzing by him, but he hasn't really seen what it is, and ends up being this liquidy blob thing. And then the liquidy blob thing goes in the shape of a Groot and starts talking, and then they start dancing together, and there's kind of like a dance off at one point, and then Groot's able to get this alien creature like out of the spaceship through the airlock, which is kind of hilarious. And then Groot continues doing salsa dancing in the end, and so it's just like so cute watching him salsa dance. So that's why I would say that one might be my favorite, but I also loved the one with the little guy. So I'm not going to say anything about it. Yeah, I love it.
So I will say probably my favorite thing in any of the shorts was in the one you're mentioning, Sam, and that's that he had the butt flap pajamas.
Yes, the pajamas were so cute. There were little trees and little mushrooms on them. Oh my god.
Yeah. So, all right, Derek.
Yes, Sam. I was gonna say my favorite was the little guy.
Yeah,
where he is. It reminded me so much of an Independence Day. Oh no, in Men in Black 2, the locker.
Yeah.
But he gets this, and they're all of a sudden so they're chucking stones at him. Then all of a sudden they have laser guns and laser cannons shooting at him.
It's like Gulliver's Travel and Horton Hears a Who, and
it's all of those. And it's funny because then at the end you think he steps on and kills all of them, except then they do end up popping up as they're okay because you know it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
If it was Marvel, they'd all be dead.
Yeah, can I tell you that when we were watching, I was watching these with Brian, my husband, as you guys know him, but in case the audience doesn't know. And then my son pops in and sees what we're watching and just like plops down and watches the rest of them with us. And he loved the little guy. He thought that was so funny, and he thought it was hilarious when he stepped on them, and we thought they were dead, and then they weren't. So
yeah.
And
now I will say, to me, the weakest of all of them was the magnum opus one where he's creating the little collage thingy.
Oh yeah, the art.
That was probably the weakest one, although they did get Bradley Cooper to come back to do the voice.
It's a Rocket. Rocket was,
but to me that was probably the weakest one.
It was the least funny.
It was the least funny.
Yeah, I thought it was cute, but not funny. And honestly, the first one where Groot's first steps, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that though. That was kind of heartwarming.
Not
it was less funny.
Yeah, it was fine, but it wasn't. Those would be my two lowest.
Heartwarming, funny, heartwarming.
Heartwarming.
Yeah.
Now we've watched Doug Days. We've watched the Baymax series. We've watched the Olaf Presents, and we've watched this. Of those four, is this the best one, Sam?
Oh, you have to start with me. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is so hard because I love all of these series, but I still have to go with Doug Days. I don't know if it's because I love Up or because specifically I love Doug and Mr. Fredrickson. And we're never going to get a Mr. Fredrickson again because the actor who voiced him, passed away. So, I still loved. It's really close. All of them, frankly, are really close. And I loved all of these, even the ones that weren't that as funny. But yeah, I got to go with Doug Days being the best. Derek, what about you?
It's Doug Days. It's Doug Days, and then Olaf, and then this. To me, the Olaf, him doing the different movies is so funny.
It's really funny.
But after about the third or fourth one, you kind of get where he's going on it, and they get a little repetitive.
Yeah. I wonder what Kate thinks, because I know Kate loves the Olaf ones. At least before seeing this, I know she loved the Olaf ones the best.
But to me,
but she is Groot.
But yeah, but to me, it's because I actually watched some of the Olaf ones and some of the Doug Days to kind of prepare for this question. It's Doug Days by a landslide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my mom was here and as we were watching these, my mom was visiting from Arizona and she didn't know anything about Groot. She just thought it was weird, but like we enjoyed this very much. You know, I liked it. But then I was like, oh, you got to watch the Olaf ones. And I put the Olaf ones on and she'd seen the first Frozen movie, but she hasn't seen the second one. And we were laughing so hard at the Olaf ones. So is this the best one? Clearly not. I would agree with you guys. I think I like Doug Days the best and probably Olaf is second. And then this is probably a little better than Baymax, I guess. I did enjoy the Baymax series as well. But very different because Baymax was more of a story. Right? I mean, they were 8-minute shorts as opposed to these being like just 2 or 3 really short shorts. So, but yeah, these are. I mean, look, it's going to take 20 minutes of your time to see all of these. It's worth it.
Not even like 15 minutes if you don't watch the credits. There's no after credit scene, by the way.
I will say one criticism I do have of this is the fact that on the Olaf Presents ones where they were also short, there was an opportunity to just play them all in a row. There was not on this.
And they weren't in under the same menu either. You had to go to like suggested to figure out how many. I actually wasn't sure how many there were. And so that was quite confusing. Just the layout, how it was presented on Disney Plus was not user friendly. They could have had it as I Am Groot series and then episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then perhaps as a 6, all of them strung together.
They actually did have a menu bar where all 5 of them were listed.
See, and I did not
scroll
see
down
that.
far enough. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I did. I missed that. But anyway, it made me a little bit confused as to figuring out how many. And I don't know that I watched them in the correct order or if there is a correct order because I just watched them.
I think as long as you watch the Groot's first steps first.
And I didn't because of, so I watched, so I didn't, I obviously after realized that one came first, but I did not watch them in whatever
I don't know
order
that there was really an order.
No, not, well,
other than the Groot,
had to watch that one first.
Yeah.
But no, it's also interesting. This was actually between Guardians 1 and Guardians 2 is when this was designed to have come out. So this is something that Kate, if you're listening, I don't know where that puts you in your timeline, but you may have to go back and retcon some of these things.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Pete, I want to go with you on this one. We watched the whole series real quick. Pixie dust out of 5 on the I Am Groot series.
3.5.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
All right. 4.5.
Ooh.
Okay. I'm going to 4. I liked it. So
yeah.
I like the Marvel thing.
Yeah.
Twice in a row.
2 Marvel things in a row. I was one of the higher rankings on the new Doctor Strange movie too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not my favorite.
Okay. Speaking of Marvel, and a Marvel series that I'm actually very intrigued by is She-Hulk premieres next week. It looks to be very irreverent. It's very much being shown up as a comedy, very much as a like breaks the fourth wall, does all that kind of stuff. It's Saved by the Bell for Marvel. No, anyway.
I don't know about that, but
yeah, I don't know about that.
More like Deadpool, where you break the fourth wall.
I was going to say Ally McBeal, if you guys remember that.
Yes, I remember Ally McBeal and the Dancing Baby. And anyway, I'm a lawyer, so I'm going to be. I hope I don't have to be critical. Yeah, I hope I don't have to be too critical, but I get really cringy at the way that movies and TV shows screw up all the legal stuff. So we'll see how this one pans out, you guys.
I did see an interview. That they actually had a lawyer on the set and were like asking them questions, and it was like driving the lawyer crazy because they're like, "Well, if you had an alien thing doing this, what would be the legal ramifications?" So they were trying to like
Yeah, so that's the other part is though sometimes they, even when there's a lawyer there, do they actually have the right kind of lawyer there? Are they asking the right questions? Or do they just ignore the lawyer as to how things, I mean, Law and Order is a perfect example. Like a ton of stuff that happens in Law and Order would never happen in real life. And so I'm not saying the crimes wouldn't happen, but the way that they do the trial and all that stuff is it's very frustrating to those of us who actually work in that field. So that's all I'll say.
I would not be surprised, but I think when you're talking about superhero,
you can suspend
terms, you can kind of be a little more forgiving, maybe.
Yes,
you would hope.
We'll see.
But we'll want your expert opinion.
All right, sounds good.
Definitely. Guys, we are actually looking for a couple diamond in the rough suggestions. So if you have any suggestions, please email us at plusplatoon@gmail.com. Something that you've been watching that you think we need to see, let us know. You can also message us on Facebook. We are on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Please, we need your suggestions. Our next live show is September 8th. We will be going live for Disney Plus Day. And with that, guys, thanks for listening. And we will see everyone next week with the Miss Marvel premiere. Sorry, She-Hulk premiere.
Howdy.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Howdy.
To infinity and other stuff.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcasts and leave those 5-star reviews as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @PlusPlatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.